today's video, we're going to take the part on the right and we're going to transform it into the part on the left. It looks like a pretty straightforward process. We're going to add that recess on the back. We're going to take the face here and we're going to add that taper and remove the hole that's there now, and discuss the different options as far as how you would do this, why I'm going to do it the way that I am, and I think maybe we'll touch on bad habits, not sure. So this really is going to be a video about reordering, and you're going to get to see some of the filleting and how filleting works, and just the problems that are presented with a finished filleted part and then going backwards and having to add core components. So we'll get started here. If I can, I'm going to leave the finished part up on the left and we'll work on the part on the right. So here we go. So first we're going to look at the part on the left, and you'll notice that the main component of the part is a revolve, and the difference between the two revolves as far as the parts go is that you'll notice that the part on the right does not have this step in it here, and that is the feature that I used to generate the hole. Now we could go to the part on the right and we could place just a counter bore in it right here. That probably would not be a problem. That would be a very valid way of doing it. I just wanted to be able to control the bore in the initial sketch, the initial revolve, instead of having adding another feature. And so if you're a first-time user, you're able to roll the tree back and forth to insert sketches and features in a certain location. But I'm assuming that most of the people that are watching this video already know how to do that. So we'll go ahead and we'll work towards this part from this part on the right here. We'll work towards the part on the left. So if we look at the boss extrude, you'll notice that the tapped hole is gone on the finished part, or the part we want to go to on the left. If we look at boss extrude 1, they are the same as far as where they're dimensioned from. Nothing's changed. What you would see on boss 1 from boss 2 that will make a difference is if we open it up, this line here is constrained to that inner ring, where on this part over here, and this was the original part that we went from, this is constrained to the outer ring. And so it does change the shape, and so we can talk about design intent. The design intent here is to keep the location from the zero, from the origin to the pivot point the same. And we also have a constraint here of 1 5/8 from the origin to where it comes into the main component. We have a degree constraint here and here both. And so what we end up doing is we end up flattening this arm out slightly. So if you wanted to keep them the same, you'd have to do something slightly different. You'd have to change, you'd have to extend it, and you'd have to delete some parts. Let's see, what would you end up doing? This 3/4 inch would no longer be the same because this arc would be extending down. So essentially what we wanted to do was keep the point here where it's going to pivot the same, and we've got constraints that we don't want to violate in this sketch. Now you may have changed this to 1/4 inch from 1/8. You know, you may have your own set of rules as to what you can and cannot modify in the sketch, but the most important point was this pivot point from or from XY0. Well, actually, in this case, it would be X Z0, but yeah, it's the origin. So the sketches haven't changed, and other than the attachment point, and we'll go there in a second. And so we're going to get out of these two sketches, and we're going to get out of this one. And then you'll notice from there's the boss extrude here, same setup where originally it was attaching, if I go to sketch 10 over here, it was attaching on this face, and now it is attaching down inside on the left, down inside the face. So it's going to change this shape a little bit. We're not going to alter where this hole is at, where the pivot point is. That's referenced to the origin. And one of the other things we're going to keep is this clearance right here. This 1/8 inch buffer is referenced off the corner, and it just keeps us from kind of flowing out into this edge here. And so let's see, then we'll get to, we've got fillet 4, which is the same type of filleting. And I did that before the mirror, so I could just mirror the filleting over. Again, that's your choice. You could fillet it after the mirror. I did it beforehand. The 1/4 inch holes are the same on these two parts. Our mirror feature is nearly identical. What we do have here, we have a fillet 3, and so let's discuss that for a second. So on this part, fillet 3 runs around the base of that arm there, and we eliminated that on the component on the left because it was difficult to get the fillets to flow around the arms correctly with the new features that were added, and we'll go through that. You guys will get to see it during the working process. The cut extrude is the same. There's nothing different about that. Same distance. The tapped holes are the same. The circular pattern's the same, so we won't touch on those. Fillet 1 is the same. That's not going to change. That's the big fillet here on the front. The chamfer is slightly different in that the chamfer on the left part only is this front face, where the chamfer on the right part is the two edges. And so on the left it's just one edge, on the right it's two edges. Then we get into some filleting. And so fillet 2, same thing on both. And then we will go to fillet 5. And you'll see that fillet 5 flows out differently on the two parts. So you can see one part here, it's a fairly even fillet around the component. If I was actually doing this part, I would trim this in a way where I would actually clean that up, because mill would have a hard time doing that. You'd end up with this blem right there. We're not going to get into the manufacturing, so this is just modifying the parts. We're not going to talk about the manufacturing, but you can see over here on the left part it flows pretty badly. It did affect the filleting because the shape of the arm changed as it was brought into this face here. Excuse me. And so then we've got fillet 7 here, which is this big fillet on this arm. So we added a fillet to relieve some of the stress, maybe at that high load point there. And you can see over here that we did not do that on the arm. Let me get this zoomed out a little bit for you guys. So fillet 8. And the reason that we did this is if I would have done, let me see if I can show you guys what happens. We'll get there. So fillet 8 is done just for those two faces. Fillet 9 wraps the rest of the arm. You can see over here that fillet 8 did the whole thing, so we used fillet 8 to flow those fillets around the entire arm. And then fillet 10 over here was just to break the sharp edges on the taper and down at the front of the nose cone. So we'll break that edge with like a 0.025 inch. Did that do that, or did it just accept it? No. Alright. Might even do smaller than that. So, we're going to get into the parts here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to roll this back to the start of the part, and we're going to go ahead and fix the revolve the way we want it to look. Now, you'd be able to look at your finished part. In my case, I'm able to look at it. Pretend it's not on the left, in that you would know kind of what you were doing. I know, having done this ahead of time, some of what happened when I was trying to get my fillets correct, and we'll try to go through that again. So, and so we'll go ahead and get this sketch fixed here. So we'll just add that. And you'll notice that if you were to, so one of the things, let me go back real quick. Let me undo that. So I'll show you what happens if you dimension. A lot of guys don't realize, if I dimension this line and then I trim out, when I trim, it's going to delete that dimension because it was to the end point of the line, point to point. The reason that my sketch doesn't do that is because when I dimensioned it, if you watch, I dimensioned to the line itself. So when I do a dimension instead of point to point, if you pick the two lines that you're dimensioning, you can do trims, and it will still, if there's a piece of the line left, it'll reference that. So that's important. And let's see, we got 1.5 inch radius by 1/8 inch deep. So we'll get the 1/8 inch. And that's just a habit to get into. If you click on the line and not the line segment, you won't have those problems with trimming. Is that 1.5 inches? Yes, it is. And so that, went fine. We're going to get rid of this tapped hole. So we're going to delete that. And it's going to ask me if I want to do that. Boss extrude hasn't changed. Oh, it has changed. So you'll see right now that it's floating out in space. A lot of this is pretty basic workflow. We're just going to go in here. I happen to have picked points. I shouldn't have done that. I should have made it collinear. We're going to go ahead and set these collinear. You'll see it changes the shape. We still retain all of our intentions with the sketch itself. And now it's down inside the part like it looks over here on the left. And let me roll it back so that we can kind of work through it together here. And if you ever get parts where you do have to do this, it's very nice to be able to have the part you want to move it to, or you want to take information off of one part and use it on the other. I set them up side by side like this. You can also drag and drop. A whole bunch of stuff you can do. On the revolve, I forgot to add that front piece, so we're going to go ahead and do that right now. And you'll see some things that happen here. So we're just going to add a line here and here and there. Now you're going to notice that when I trim, I lose a dimension because it's constrained to the line. So as soon as I trim out right here, right here. Oh, actually I'm just going to lose this. So it's constrained to the line. Going to delete that. And then I'm going to set these two horizontal so they can't move. Oh shoot. Yeah, I don't know why that moved. So I'm going to set these two horizontal. And then I'm going to go back and dimension from here to here. That's going to be 3. And I'm going to change my dimensioning for the shoulder here because I want this distance to stay the same. And this I changed to 2 on the other model. So we're going to do that, and it's going to bring the whole thing forward. It's going to keep all this stuff and just shorten this distance here. So we're going to do that. And let's see, how are we on time? 16. Okay. You'll notice that this sketch is on the right, or on the top plane, and I just used offset from sketch offset, and that just allowed me to move that whole thing up. I offset it 1/4 inch. That's something you guys can figure out on your own. So boss extrude 2 is the same. We're going to exit out of here, and we're going to roll down below boss extrude 2. We're going to get our first hole in, which is going to be over there. We're going to get a fillet in here. Oh, so this is a bad habit that you should not do. You should not constrain your sketch to a fillet. So if I go to edit sketch, you'll note that it's constrained to this fillet, and I can show you that because if I try to move this fillet or this hole above the fillet, it won't let me. See how it'll only go below the fillet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and the reason that that's bad is because if you ever need to delete the fillet, you lose the constraint for the hole. So I'm going to just delete that constraint. I'm now going to move this up to the boss extrude that it goes with, and then I'm going to reconstrain the sketch. And so I'm just going to float back over the hard corner, and it's going to reconstrain to the center, and I'm good to go. Now if I need to delete that fillet for some reason, I can. So you'll notice fillet 4 does the same thing. I just rolled it around that arm. Fillet 4 here is same thing, rolled around the arm. So on the left we're going to leave that, and we're working on the right. So fillet 3 used to go around the bottom. Now it's going to go around part of it. We're going to move this like we did on the left side. That was a bad habit on my part. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to OK it. We're going to move it up with the part that it goes with. We're going to reconstrain the sketch. And we're going to get back to where we were at. So fillet 3 is not going to work there, and the reason it's not, it will be evident here in a minute. So we'll roll down and get to where we need to be here. So you'll notice cut extrude 1 hasn't changed. What you'll see on the left part here is you can see this fillet sticking out right here, and it shouldn't be doing that. And so really what that should have done, that was a mistake on my part. That should go both directions, and this should go up to surface as well. Hopefully it'll pick that up. to surface. It did, good. Okay. And so on this one over here, same problem. We've got fillet 3, which is not doing what it should be doing. You'll notice over here, fillet 6, what I did is I rolled it around everything. And so let's take care of this cut extrude first. Oh, we're going to get rid of fillet 3. And we're going to make a new fillet here. And that's going to be fillet 6. In this case, I'm not sure, it doesn't say what the number is. So we're going to fillet these. We're going to make sure and get these components here. And you can see now it rolls around the whole part. And I want to keep surface. How's that going to work? Did it fill the same? Did it flow the same way? I believe it did. So we're going to go ahead and move fillet 6 before this cut extrude. In this case, it just makes it the same. And we're going to do this cut extrude, and we're going to make sure that it goes up to surface, and direction 2 is going to be up to surface as well. That one. Okay. And then we've got our tapped holes and our circular pattern. Nothing's really changed there. Now, what we're starting to get into here is how, oh, I forgot to fix this one as well. Darn it, guys. Let me fix that. So, sketch 10, we're just going to edit the sketch. We're going to get rid of this. And again, we want this to stay a ½ inch from the center. We want an 1/8 inch clearance, and we've got a location out here. So we're going to now stick this down to this face, and it changes the shape but keeps our design intent. And so then we got fillet 1, which is out here on the nose. We've got some chamfering. This chamfer may now error out. Should. So what's happened here is it's missing this edge right here that was chamfered. So we're going to open it, and we're just going to close it if we can get it to get out of the road there with the text. It's going to give us a warning telling us it's going to remove an item. Fillet 2. So fillet 2, same thing on both sides. Fillet 2 doesn't change. And now we're going to get into the change for the part. And the change here, fillet 5, you'll see on the left. Fillet 5 is the chamfer around the outside edge. It's not a different pick. It just flowed differently from the original part. So now you can see they're identical. Flows across here, does this funny gapping. All right, so we're going to move on here. So on this side, you'll see fillet 7, which is the large nose fillet there. It is ½ inch. So we'll go ahead and get that inserted on the right-hand side. And we're going to change that to 0.5. And we'll get these in a similar orientation here. And then we're going to take a look at fillet 8. Now here was the thing I was explaining. So I'm going to go over here and show you why I did it this way. If I just start a fillet and I've got tangent propagation on. What you're going to notice is what it's going to attempt to do is roll around that part, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So tangent, oh, you know what, I missed, one sec guys, I missed something here. Let's see, 9 is 6 over there. I missed this edge. You guys probably saw that. Alright, let's try that again. Okay, back to this fillet. So in this case, fillet 11 is fillet 8 over there, but I'm going to show you what I started out doing. And that is that I had tried to fillet this whole thing. And what you'll notice is, see how those pull those toes in? So on a milling machine, in order to do that, it's gonna have to mill around that corner. I didn't want to get into machining, but this is not normally how you'd want to run those side fillets out. You wouldn't want them to curve in. And so if I come over here and I take a look at this one, you'll see that oops, because I got it open in the same window, it won't let me modify both at the same time. You'll see over here that I turned off tangent propagation, and I wanted these, just like you had a ball end mill coming along here, I wanted them to just feather straight out. And you'd have to do this cut afterwards. Don't want that. Dang it. Let's get rid of that. Cancel. Anyways, to go back to what I was saying, you'd want the ball end mill to come straight off, and then you'd have to machine this part afterwards. This part would be extremely expensive to machine. You wouldn't have it machined unless it was worth a whole bunch of money, because it would be really expensive to machine. But that's neither here nor there. So the reason I didn't select all the faces over here that I had originally intended to is because I don't want those pulling in like they were. So I'm going to turn off tangent propagation, and we're going to get just the fillets we've got over there on 8. In this case, it's 11 over here. Actually, fillet 8 was right here. We'll just clear all the selections. We'll select these two. That way we can keep the numbers the same for you guys, or somewhat the same. We're going to turn off tangent propagation, and we'll go from there. So now fillet 9 basically flows around the rest of the part. So if we take a look at that, I've got some selections there. Pull this down a little bit. We've got 3. So we're going to add a fillet over here. We're going to close that out because I've got them both running in the same instance of Solidworks, which I normally wouldn't do. So over here we're going to, oops, forgot to make this active. We're going to go ahead and get this fillet rolling around this whole thing. And I should just be able to select that. Nope, not that. That. Yes. And are we done? Nope. Yep. Okay, so fillet 9 and 12 are the same, even though my numbers aren't the same. Fillet 10 is going to be the nose piece. So we'll do that real quick for the sake of being thorough. And I can't remember what I set this to. I think 0.05. And then we're going to chamfer that last part at 0.25, 0.025. It does that all the time. Inconsistency in the way that the damn tool works. So when you're in a fillet command, it automatically has that area highlighted. When you're in the chamfer command, it doesn't. So Inconsistency in the way it works. And I normally don't have this on, but I wanted them to be in the same orientation for you guys. So we're going to get them in the same orientation real quick. And let's see, right there, and then one up, and then zoomed in. Alright, and you guys can see how that the parts match. We're going to use this for future modifications. I'm going to do a video on how to reorder parts, or reorder features, how to untuck things that are stuck below something, how to unstick them. And then we're going to look, the third video after that, after we do some editing where we've got to move things around that are really hard to move around, or harder. We're going to look at this part from the perspective of having it made. I'm assuming this would be at least 3-axis. I'm not sure if it would make sense to do it 4th axis or not on this, but it would be very expensive to have machined. It would be much cheaper to have a turned part that's drilled, turned, and welded. So those back arms could be welded, and you could get essentially the same part for a lot less. So we'll go back through that. We'll talk about that workflow, how to go from a machine part, and then your boss comes up and says, hey, we need to turn this into something that's a welded component or a weldment. And that'll be the third video. So hope this helps somebody. Talk to you guys later.